Pretending. Yes, your face. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks. Good morning. Good morning. Oops, that's the first bell. That's the second one. Yes, we have. Got it. We've had a lot of fun with technology this morning already, so let's go ahead and stand up with the invocation, John.
Morning, everyone. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you today in humility and faith. We thank you for all you have given us and the many blessings in our lives. We ask for your guidance and strength. Show us the way and fill us with the courage and wisdom to help us to remember your love and grace and be faithful in our service to you and service to our community. Give us the patience and understanding to face life's challenges with grace. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you, Dave. Wonderful. All right, guys, I am so excited because we did get Zoom to finally work. Yay. Thank you guys for joining us. Woohoo. All right. We have got a great agenda this morning. We've got a fabulous speaker, and we've got some special guests back here that I think we should go ahead and get started with. Susan, what do you think? All right, come on up here. Susan wants to share some words of wisdom about Rett syndrome and introduce her family as well.
All right.
Welcome, Susan.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be able to introduce you all to my granddaughter, Ava, and my daughter, Lindsay, and her husband, Brian. Ava was diagnosed at 18 months with Rett syndrome. And so in the last couple of years for Polar Bear Open, Rett Syndrome Research Trust has been the beneficiary of some of our funds. So on your table, you have Ava's business card that gives you information about Rett and also about all the exciting things that Rett Syndrome Research Trust is doing to find a cure. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. So anyway, Brian wants to do a little bit of just education to all of us as far as what Rett syndrome is really all about. And so Brian, come on up here. You have to stand here too, because
stand right
you're
here,
on Zoom. Yes, you are. So Brian is the educator of all educators. And when Ava was first diagnosed, he was my go-to person to learn everything that was going on with Rett, because I'd never heard about it, just like all of you have never heard about Rett syndrome. So here's Brian. Ava is just a trooper. She's undergone an EEG this week to look at her night tremors with the Cincinnati Rett Clinic. And she's just the most precious little thing in it ever. But I'm so excited to share her with you today. So go, Brian.
So she made it seem like I had an option to come up here. So I was kind of roped into this, but I figured everyone knows soon. So Ava's 3.5 years old. And with Rett syndrome, around the 9-month mark, it's predominantly in girls. Probably 98% of Rett patients are female because it deals with the X chromosome. So around the 9-month mark, you stop to see normal progression and you start to miss milestones. And so we started noticing that Ava wouldn't put any weight on her legs, on her arms, or crawl or walk. And so we started going to physical therapy. And what that ended up doing is taking us down this road where we did what's called an IDEA panel, which it's an intellectual disability education and autism panel. So it's a genetic test that looks for all sorts of markers for known diseases. And so it came back and we found out she has Rett syndrome. And we were like, what in the world is this? So it's a mutation on the X chromosome. They just found this out in 2006. It's Rett syndrome has been around since Dr. Rett found it from Germany in 1950. But basically what we see in girls is they're non-ambulatory. So Ava is one of the very few girls that's able to take a few steps on her own. But it's like when you're driving your car, if you were to hit the brake, every time you brake, the horn goes off. And every time you turn on your turn signal, you may speed up. So it's called apraxia. So when she sends a signal out and says, I want to move my right leg, she may scream. If she sends a signal out and says, I want to move my left leg, her right arm might go up. So she's never able to get the right signals out. So we have walking issues, we have mobility issues. She's lost the use of her left hand. So now she just scoop feeds herself, which we're very fortunate. Most girls have a G-tube by this time. Seizure issues. So our daily life is everything that she could possibly need to go through life requires assistance and will require assistance without a change in the status quo. So when we started looking in and researching what can we do to get involved to help, we found two organizations, and it's very interesting. Sue said, don't mention the other organization, but I want to. So there's two organizations, and I think they're both doing great work. One organization, though, focused on what can we do for families and let's treat it. And the other organization long ago said, all we want to do is cure Rett syndrome. And when they started that, the founder is named Monica. She has a 26-year-old with Rett syndrome. It wasn't possible. There's no cure in sight. There's no hope. Now, mainly because of Rett Syndrome Research Trust, RSRT, who this money will go to and who we're putting all of our support behind, there's 7 treatments in the pipeline that are possibly cures, 2 of which have started clinical trials. Well, I should say one has started clinical trials, the other is slated to start this year. Tasha started in Canada, and it's a gene replacement therapy, and it goes through a spinal tap. And then there's what's the other one? I'm blanking now. Neurogene. Neurogene is the one we're very excited about. And it starts middle of this year, probably in June or July. They're going to start clinical trials in the US. And it's a direct medical dosage into the brain. And that's where the X chromosome mutation, MECP2, that's where we have issues. And so we're very excited about it. They have shown in studies to reverse all phenotypes in mice. And so there's a cure on the horizon. And right now is the most important time ever to get this over the finish line, because all the families are extremely excited and we're just ready to unlock our little girl inside. Oh, the other thing, I totally messed up what I was going to say. Ava is fully with it and she's fully able to understand everything that's going on around her. She just can't express it. So she has an expressive device, a communication device like Stephen Hawking. And when she communicates on it, you can totally tell she's inside. So there's a 15-year-old girl who's never had this device, was given this device in Montana, and she was doing trigonometry in her head. And once she got the device, it was unlocked. So these girls are fully with it. She's our little Stephen Hawking, and we really appreciate everything you guys are doing to help us.
Thank you so much for that amazing explanation. And like you said, there's research information on the tables as well. And for those of you on Zoom, we'll get some info out to you as well. But gosh, she is adorable. Thank you so much for bringing her today. And thank you all for helping us support them through the polar bear golf outing. So I did wear my little polar bear sweater today in honor of the polar bear. Pete, did you or Jean, did you guys want to talk about polar bear a little bit?
Just a couple of things associated with it. There's so much more light. When you've been coming to Rotary for 22 years, you walk in this room, there's so much more light. So than in the past. So I dressed up and shaved today for you guys. But you know, a couple of things were you know, associated with it. So we're for the most part at capacity for the event, which is obviously exciting. So we do have room for Rotarians still to sign up in golf. From a volunteer perspective, we need just a little bit more help. So we need help on the typical shifts, you know, the early shifts, the 7:15 shift to get out there. We looked at the weather forecast right now. They're calling for mid-30s for the day. We'll see how it shifts in the next week. And then we're in need of photographers. So we've got a big gap in photographers, although I'm sure all of us will have our Android devices or iPhones out, and we can assist with that throughout the morning too as well. Gotcha. And then on the back of this slip, we need help in the cleanup stage too as well. So you know, after you're going to have some people that are going to be out there all day, and the more people that we can get to kind of clean up, the quicker we'll get through it. So people can kind of get out of there at the end of the day. So I'm gonna pass this around. This could be the last time. I guess we'll have one more time next Friday too as well, and look forward to seeing you all next Saturday. Thanks.
Job. And
Just so I understand, are you saying we're asking for golfers?
We will still add our Rotarians. We can have our Gene, have you got anything to add on that besides that?
So we have about at least 4 foursomes that are available, but we want to make sure that everybody in the club gets enough.
Got
to do the same. So,
Got it.
yeah.
I didn't know they capped you this year.
Yeah, they adjusted it down a little bit just yesterday from 144 to 128. So I spoke with
And
time.
we've got 128 golfers.
That's our capacity.
Got it.
So right now, we're kind of at the 111, 112.
That's fantastic.
111 golfers. That's really amazing.
I'll be there all day.
Yeah, yes. And I can't say thanks enough to Jean and to Pete and to everyone on the committee, because they have really jumped in to pick up where Pete Fulbrigge left us off. So we are going to do a little bit of a memorial at the tournament for him as well. And maybe, I don't know if next week we'll have the t-shirts here. Maybe not. We're going to try to have the t-shirts here so we can hand out to volunteers. Oh, we have one.
Sample here.
Aha. And on the bottom, what does it say?
One of Pete's sayings was, "What's the matter? Scared?" So put that on there.
Fantastic. So he's showing for those on Zoom, it's a lovely lime green t-shirt, and we are, it was Pete's choice, so we are honoring that. So I do believe actually the forecast is a heat wave compared to the last 2 years, because I think the last 2 years it was all like, I know. So with that, I'd like to get on to our speaker, but I'm sorry, got to get to our Sergeant at Arms. Any other last announcements though? Paige, did you have an announcement?
Well, I have a happy buck.
Oh, we can take a happy buck.
I have had the pleasure the last 4 days, 4.5 days, of spending time with brother Rick Schmiederman out in Phoenix, Arizona, up in Scottsdale Desert Mountain. Rick is doing great. He looks great. His health is good. He's working out at the fitness center 4 days a week. Actually, he's headed this today, maybe tomorrow, to Scotland for a wedding where he has to wear a kilt. So he promised me that he would share the pictures of the kilt, which will immediately be shared with all of our Rotarians, but he sends his hello.
Very good. Thanks, Paige. All right. Any other announcements? Happy bucks. Let's move on to Sergeant at Arms, Jim Van Deen.
Yes, we'll make this quick.
Okay. First thing, guests today are David Robinoff and the Watson family. Thank you for coming today. And Daniel Schwegman. Okay, it's Paige, guest with Paige. Thank you. We'll do fines. I think it's the usual. If you don't have your pin or your name badge on, that'll be $1.
Very good.
I don't see everybody. You like that? Okay. Got to keep David happy. The other thing is, if you're not working or playing in the polar bear, that'll be $1. Okay. Other than that, we'll get right to the drawings. There's $10 in the small pot, and there's, let's see, what was it? $522 in the large pot.
Go. And the number 7279. All right.
Jen? You want the $10 or you want to take the chance?
Big money.
You got it?
How much was it?
$522.
Right. 7280. 7280.
Someone has to be.
Yeah, right here.
You got to give to the polar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. I think you should go buy a Powerball or whatever the big lotto is. You are lucky. All right, and with that, let's get to our speaker for today. Cindy, would you like to come up and introduce?
Good morning, everyone. Brittany Sinzinger is the Executive Director for the American Lung Association of South Central Ohio. She works to achieve the mission of the American Lung Association to see a world free from lung disease. She began her journey at the ALA after her son had a near fatal asthma attack 10 years ago, and now strives to ensure no other patients have to endure or parents have to endure that same experience. Her biggest accomplishments to date has been raising over $2 million in fundraising events since she joined the ALA 10 years ago. Brittany lives in Delaware with her husband of 21 years, 3 children, and loves running half marathons. She does it all the time. I don't understand. Spending time with her family and then volunteering for other organizations. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Brittany Sinzinger.
Good morning. Okay, let me get my PowerPoint up really quick. How do we share that with our Zoom friends? Or do we, are we able?
Yes.
Yes.
Share the screen.
Thank you. There you go. PowerPoint's up. So
Okay.
Share the screen, Peter.
Yep. Let's see. Hold on a second.
oh, it's at the bottom.
First, starting it.
Yeah, and then just say share. It's on the video.
There you go.
Let's hear Peter.
All right, let's see. How do we share here? Slideshow from beginning. There we go.
Nice.
All right, very good. Okay. Now that we have that out of the way. So I'm just gonna say this ahead of time. So if for some reason I lose my place or I get a little mixed up, I am recovering from a concussion. And this is actually my first big presentation since that happened. So thankfully, I know the organization and my story very well, but I tend to get a little ahead of myself and then my brain like kind of freaks out. So just bear with me if that happens. That's asking for grace today. So as Cindy said, my name is Brittany Sinzinger, and I have the pleasure of representing Columbus and Cincinnati, South Central Ohio as the Executive Director for the American Lung Association. This is my why, as Cindy said. I always tell people when they volunteer or when they work with a nonprofit that, you know, it's very important to have a passion behind it, to have a why behind it. And I say that because there are so many organizations out there that need help, so many. And there are so many of us that are impacted in different ways, just like with the Rett syndrome, and if you and you even said, Susan, at the beginning, you didn't even really know anything about it until it happened. And this is the same situation. So this is my Matthew, and he is 15 and a half years old, which is so crazy to say out loud. But when he was 2 months old, we had no idea that he had asthma. He had been jumping in leaves with his brother the week prior to his big attack, and lo and behold, was allergic to the mold that grows under those leaves. And he had spent an entire week seemingly sick. We thought he had a cold. We thought he wasn't feeling well. We had him to the pediatrician multiple times. And then on October 3rd, a very rainy Saturday morning, he went into a full-fledged attack. And naive parents that we actually drove him to Children's Hospital from Delaware because we didn't realize the severity of what was happening. And by the time we got to Children's Hospital, he was blue, foaming at the mouth, limp. I ran in with him basically saying he was dead because that's what I thought. And I still choke up talking about it because I can still see that little face in my head. And he spent many days in the ICU, and many more on a different floor even. So when we left that hospital, I made it a mission to learn. I wasn't going to be a parent that just listened to the doctors. I wasn't going to be a parent that was just complacent with him taking meds. I wanted to learn how to best take care of my child so that he never, ever had to go through this again. So I went to the American Lung Association and said, hey, do you need volunteers? Do you have a support group? We didn't have a support group at the time. Thankfully, Cindy's helped out with that in a sense, but they said, hey, we've got this really awesome event coming up. They knew my background because I had to fill out a form. You have a degree in public relations. You must like events. And I go, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom, but sure, So I started volunteering at our very first Fight for Air Climb event, which is a stair climb event down at Rhodes Tower that I'll touch on a little bit at the end. And I've been part of the organization in some manner ever since. I was hired on in 2012 as a development coordinator part-time. And since then have kind of just worked my way up the ladder to where I am today, now covering multiple cities. So what I'm going to tell you about today, just so you know, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about the American Lung Association. I'm not going to necessarily give you a lot of information about the disease state, just kind of telling you more about what we do, because a lot of people think of us as, the tobacco people or just the asthma people. And there's a whole lot more that we do for people who don't have any connection to lung disease even. So that's what I want to share with you today, because when you can't breathe, nothing else matters. So our vision, as Cindy said, is a world free of lung disease. We have a few strategic imperatives that we focus on. So defeating lung cancer, being a champion for clean air, improving the quality of life for those with lung disease and their caretakers, and then creating a tobacco-free future, which now includes vaping. So we've been we have been the oldest volunteer medical. Let me start over, brain. We are the oldest medical volunteer organization in the nation. So we have been around for 115 years. We started out as the Tuberculosis Association. And then as we, virtually eradicated TB, we've kind of evolved with the times of other lung diseases and then other needs of things that affect our lungs. So you can read a little bit there just to see a little bit more about us too. So something that I'm really, really proud of for the American Lung Association is for every dollar that we raise, 90 cents of that dollar goes towards our programs and services and our strategic imperatives that I shared with you at the beginning. And while I've been told before, you shouldn't share that number. Why? Because it's very important that you see that we spend 10 cents on our employees per dollar, and that we take 90% of what we raise and we put it back into the community in some way, whether that's through research or programs or education. So the need is very urgent. I'm gonna minimize our little Zoom box right there for just a second. There's a lot going on with lungs in our world. So we have lung cancer. It's the #1 cancer killer for both men and women in the US and has been since 1987. Tobacco, like I just said, vaping, such a huge issue right now, especially among our middle schoolers and our high schoolers. Air pollution. This is something a lot of people don't think about. This is something I like to tell people, hey, if you don't have lung disease, or if you don't smoke, or, know somebody that does, the air we breathe impacts everybody. Everything we're breathing right now is our indoor air quality. And I won't tell you how bad it might be. So asthma. This statistic that I have here, children ages 5 to 17 have missed 7.9 million days of school due to asthma. That is insane. COPD is the third leading cause of disease-related deaths. And then most recently, that dreaded C word that has impacted our lives for the past 3 years. And if you didn't know, COVID is a lung illness. It is a lung virus. So I'm not going to read through all of this, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of information on our history. Like I said, virtually eliminating tuberculosis, seeing other needs in the community for lungs and respiratory distress syndrome and asthma and cystic fibrosis. We've helped more than 1 million smokers quit. We have recently really picked up our pace on helping people realize if they're eligible for lung cancer screenings, because obviously the sooner you know, the better chance you have of living a longer life. Clean air. Lung cancer research, and then, like I said, our COVID initiatives that we've launched very recently. So I'm going to share with you a few things. So when we talk about the American Lung Association, we say we share 3 things, or we complete our mission through 3 things: education, advocacy, and research. So I'm going to share with you what that looks like. So first of all, training that anybody and everybody can get. This is amazing. This is our website. So if you go to lung.training, okay, it's not .org or anything like that. It's literally lung.training. Anybody in this room can take training on anything that you see below: asthma, facilitator training, indoor air, tobacco, and advocacy. And why I think this is really cool is because it's not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to come to an American Lung Association office to get a pamphlet from me. You don't necessarily have to be in a presentation like this to get information or to learn. You can literally just go online, sign up, and it's free. It costs nothing. And these are just a few of my favorite trainings. So Tobacco Basics is it's a 1-hour online course. You watch a couple videos to kind of see where the toll of tobacco, what the toll of tobacco is causing in the US, which is big, very, very big. It's for anybody and everybody. As you see, that target audience lists a whole lot of people. So that's really important. Radon. Who owns a home? How many of you own a home? I'm assuming most of you. If you have not had your home tested for radon, please have your home tested. If you have not had it tested in the last 5 years, you should have it tested every 5 years. Radon is the 2nd leading cause of lung cancer. 2nd. If you have ratings or grade, it's a grade system basically, anything above 4, okay? For every point above that, it's like smoking 2.5 cigarettes every single day. Okay, so think about that. So please, 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 the test kits you can get at Home Depot. You don't necessarily have to go through a company to start out. You can get a little test. You test your soil, and it tells you how to do it over a week time. You send it in, and they'll give you what your rating is. And then, yes, then you can call somebody if your numbers are high to get a mitigation system. But please, and if anything, take this one, go on my website, please, and at least learn a little bit more about radon, because it is a very big problem in Ohio. So asthma basics, this one's just my heart. So of course I'm going to share that one so that you can learn a little bit more about asthma, specifically asthma in children. So in the field, we're doing a whole lot out and about in the community. We're finally getting back out there. We're finally allowed to get back out there, which is really great. I mentioned that Cindy has been a very pinnacle force in getting our Better Breathers clubs back out in the community. So this is a support group for anybody who is impacted by lung disease. So lung disease, lung cancer, COPD, whatever that might look like, asthma, and it's for the patient and the caretakers. And I think that's really important to say, because, you know, if you are a caretaker to anybody with any disease, you know how important it is to have other people who understand exactly what you're going through and are able to just, you know, be there for support. So Cindy can share at some point, if she'd like, you know, where that is, and you know, and we do if you want to later. Yeah. So thank you, my brain. See, so she can share that with you guys later if you're interested in coming and checking that out too. So something new that we actually just started is our lung cancer mentor program. Kind of the same idea of coming along people who are caretakers or patients who have lung cancer. But what we encourage is for somebody who has gone through the treatment, who is a survivor of lung cancer, to come alongside those who may have lung cancer currently or are current caretakers, just to be someone there who can answer questions. You know, sometimes there's side effects to the treatment, and somebody may not be sure, is this really a side effect? Is this something else? And just give somebody to bounce something, some ideas off of. And it just gives you that one-on-one. So instead of being in a group setting, it's a one-on-one. This is actually done online. So you can go onto lung.org and look that up if you're interested in seeing anything about that. You get paired with somebody, you can do Zoom meetings, you can do texting, whatever they decide to do once they're paired up. And I really love this. I think it's a really great way to connect the lung cancer community across the nation. So this is my pride and joy. So our idol free program. So prior to COVID, golly, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I had the opportunity of working on a year-long project with Delaware City Schools and a group of 6th graders who decided they wanted their air quality around their school to be healthier. So we did, like I said, year-long, the whole school year. They did a research project on just that. So for example, they went out in the morning when parents were dropping off their kids to count cars, to see how many people, left their cars on if they were early waiting there, to drop their kids off, how many people come through. They did it at the end of the day too, just to see, because I don't know if you're a parent in here and you've ever gone to pick up a kid, there's always parents that come like 45 minutes early and, because they want to be that first one. And most of the time they leave their car on. Which not only is that a waste of money on your gas, but what is that doing in our air? We partnered with MORPC and Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, and we had little air quality testers so they could test the air quality just to see how bad it was. And they came up with a plan to present to the school board to get these signs erected at the schools to encourage parents to turn off their cars while they're waiting. And little did they know, the school board already said yes, but we still had them present to them. They were on channel 10. Like, it was really cool actually. And they were able to get signs up at all of the Delaware City schools. So I'm sharing with you today because we're actually doing this in Dublin schools now. So there's a little guy at a local school, a 5th grader, who actually came to us and said, I'm really passionate about lung health. And I'm like, as a 10-year-old, I love it, and he goes, I want to do something in my school. And so I presented this to the teacher and to his family, and they're all over it. So we're just now starting this project. So we're hoping by the end of the school year, it won't be a year long like we did up in Delaware, but we're hoping by the end of the school year, all of the Delaware City schools will have these signs. So we're really excited about that and being able to just educate the students a little bit about it so that they can learn more about their air quality. So then, of course, we have policy and advocacy. I'm not going to lie, this is not my strong suit because this is not my area, but I feel very passionate about what we're doing on a national level and on a local level for clean air, for lung health, and for tobacco. Many of you may have seen that we were trying to get a bill passed in the Columbus area to ban flavored tobacco in stores, and that it had passed on a city level, and then they tried on a state level to ban that, and the governor has vetoed that. There's a lot of research behind children and smoking, and if they can get, if they start smoking at a young age, obviously they're more likely to become addicted and smoke long term. And a lot of these, especially with vaping, vaping kind of skirted around some of the tobacco laws for a while because it wasn't quite considered tobacco. So they were back to, advertising flavors with little cartoon characters, and, and it was like fruity pop flavor and bubblegum flavor. And guys, I hate to tell you, but that is not aimed at adults. That is aimed at the youth. And we have, again, there's a lot of research behind that. And so to try to keep these kiddos from wanting to vape and being in the bathrooms during lunchtime and recess and all of that, because that's what they're doing, we're to go hide and vape in the bathrooms, we're trying to halt that. So hopefully this plays because this is really cool. So something else that I love with our advocacy, and I'm pairing this with advocacy. It is research as well, but as I said at the beginning, something that we have really put a lot of effort into the last few years is early CT scans. And it's very important because Medicaid and Medicare, there are laws around who can have a CT scan for free. Okay. And it's not like, you know, prostate cancer or breast cancer, where it's just part of your plan. It's you have to qualify, so to speak. And what that qualification looks like is if you are a smoker who has the equivalent of 30 packs a day. No joke. I know it says a day, but there's a formula in there where it actually comes down to like 3 packs a day times so many years. And there are lots of people out there, but there are people who have lung cancer who have smoked twice. And yes, the tobacco triggered something in their bodies that caused that lung cancer. So we're trying to educate on that and also change those laws to make it a standard screening that can happen after a certain age. Pardon me. So we partnered with the Ad Council, and this is our newest Saved by the Scan commercial that you can actually see on a lot of stations. I actually saw it when I was watching Hulu the other day, which I thought was super cool. I got very excited. I was clapping and jumping up and down. My family thinks I'm insane, but I was really excited to see it. So hopefully this plays because it's a pretty cool commercial. Uh-oh, you can't hear it though. Can you hear it?
Somehow I lost all these years. Where did that time go? I don't know how I got here.
The song's not as good.
I can see now.
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
I just love that because it shows this evolution of a person, you know, and how she was able to be alive for her granddaughter because she had that scan done. And I just think it's really cool because it lightens it up a little bit because it's heavy. It's very heavy. And it's an awful, not that all cancer is awful to pass away from, but it is a very slow cancer to pass from. And it is very hard. So I love that they're trying to lighten it to the point where it's not as scary. You know, go get this scan. It could save your life. It could help you be with your grandchildren longer. And I love that. Oh, no, there we go. So I'm just going to go through this really quick. So I know we only have a few minutes. So our last piece is research. We are very passionate about research because research saves lives. After I started at the American Lung Association, I actually found out that one of the medications that saved my son's life was something that the American Lung Association funded research for. And it gives me chills still to say that, because if the American Lung Association didn't exist, my baby who was sitting in that picture with our doggy might not be here today. And I think that research is so important. Lung cancer, asthma, COPD, so heavily underfunded on a national level. It's not even funny. It's insane, to be honest with you. And especially with lung cancer being the #1 cancer killer, and to have it so underfunded is insane to me. So we are very proud of our research. We're very proud of the millions of dollars that we're able to put into research. We did do a $25 million research promise for COVID a couple years ago that we've already given $15 million. And really the research behind that is so that another pandemic doesn't hit. Let's do the research behind why it happened, how it happened, so that we can hopefully prevent future pandemics. Really quick, this is a really awesome researcher that we are funding in at Ohio State, Dr. Brittany, and she is doing something kind of cool. Can exercise reduce lung cancer risk? So she's running a bunch of tests on people who exercise. Not me, even though, as Cindy said, I'm crazy and run half marathons, but but I love it. I love being able to see, does that make a difference in somebody's life? And we were able to give her the Lung Cancer Discovery Award. And she just started that research this year. So really exciting to see that in our very own backyard too. So lastly, how do we fund all of this? Obviously through fundraising. And I mentioned the climb at the beginning. The Fight for Air climb is going on its 13th year. There are some flyers on your table. We are still looking for climbers. So if you are interested, we also need volunteers. So if you don't want to climb 40 floors and 880 steps, I understand 100%. And we definitely need volunteers too. We're actually 22 days away. I took that screenshot yesterday. So we're 22 days away from the event. And you can check that out using your flyer or going to climbcolumbus.org. So does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Yeah, does anybody do any funding or advocacy around mesothelioma?
We do. We do everything. I mean, if it's a lung disease, we definitely put dollars into it. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Why did divine veto the bill?
So we did a lot of lobbying to him, but we did. A lot of organizations did a lot of lobbying. We went to him with the research facts and telling him that we know that these companies are targeting children and that something needs to stop. Something needs to change, even if it's changing the law, to make sure that it aligns, the vaping laws align with all tobacco laws. Like, for example, tobacco companies are no longer able to use cartoon characters. You don't see the Camel, whatever his name was, that I remember when I was growing up, for Camel cigarettes, because they're not allowed to. And the flavoring, that's just the big thing. That's the thing we're against. I mean, cigarettes aren't going anywhere. Vaping probably isn't going anywhere, but why try to appeal to children? So that's kind of what we shared with him. And I think he vetoed it, but I think he's going to make adjustments is my guess. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
On the fundraiser, how many climbers do you get?
So prior to COVID, we were able to actually climb in 2020 because it was before everything shut down. We had over 600 climbers. Right now I'm hovering around 300. This is our first year back in the building. We've been outside for the last couple of years for obvious reasons. So I expected it to be down a little bit. There are still people who are a little nervous and I don't blame them. I mean, I totally support that. So I think we'll probably be between 300 and 400. Yeah. Yeah, Rhodes Tower downtown.
And Cindy, did I hear you say they take the elevator down?
Yeah.
They do.
Take the elevator down.
They do.
People standing on the floor in case you.
Can't make it.
And the firemen. My favorite part.
Oh, yeah.
Usually have, go ahead and talk about the
Yeah, so we have firemen who are in full gear who climb at the very end. We have about 35 registered right now. But yeah, they climb in full gear. And some of them even wear their air, which actually is harder to do because it's not oxygen. You get yelled at if you call it that, it's air. So, but some of them do wear their air too, which is really impressive, just very impressive. So, all right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Right, well, I'm gonna unshare, but I don't know how, so I won't mess it up.
All right. Well, thank you. That was just a wealth of information. And I hope you all have a chance to read the information left at the tables and maybe do some online training. I love that you have that opportunity as well. Next week, we have creative mindfulness. Our speaker is Katie Oberly of Katie Oberly Creative. So I think we're going to get some good information there. Closing quote for the day. It won't be about the Bengals, unfortunately. I know you guys aren't Bengals fans, but I am or was. Today is Henry Heimlich's birthday. Henry Heimlich of the Heimlich maneuver, which also helps people breathe, right? So I thought, kind of a connection there. Anyway, quote from Henry: how good it is to be well-fed, healthy, and kind all at the same time. It's Henry Heimlich. Take on the world today. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Gotta learn this. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's you know, it takes me a second to get oriented because it's a little different from my computer. You know,
That's me too, so.
actually, that's a different, see, it's this is running the new Windows. So, you know, usually the Windows screen is on the left here for older versions of Windows.
Yeah. But so what you did was.
Yeah, so,
Up her.
so let's, so let's just pull PowerPoint up. And then we got Rotary presentation. Does she have a
She had a thumb drive.
thumb drive? Okay, so this is a good example. So then, where's Zoom at? Nope, there it is. Nope, that's not Zoom.
Is that it? That one?
Yes.
Pull up the
So you go back to that. Okay, so you got it pulled up, and then you hit share screen. And then you got to select this screen right here, because that's the one that's got the open, and you just hit share. And then you've now got that up, and then you I could find a slideshow. Here we go.
Ah,
From beginning. And then so they should be seeing the entire slideshow, you know, as it appears here.
just stop share, I guess.
Yes, so yeah, so then when you're done,
Yeah.
hit stop share and you go back. So
Perfect. Thank you.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
so
I think I have a total mental block.
and then we